And thank you once again for joining us on Beyond the Ark. My name is Kevin, your host, and I have the coach, Steve Fabella, with us today. Today we're talking Oklahoma City Thunder basketball. Something my co-host, my guest has been wanting to talk about for a little bit. I'll go ahead and let you start there, Coach.
Okay, well, I'm a big fan of Sam Presti. It just seems like he makes a lot of great moves. When he started there, with the draft, he got 3 Hall of Famers, 3 MVPs, and then the amazing thing, he trades Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul, and I thought, that's like the worst trade ever, because a year ago we were talking about no one would want a $38 million man who's almost 38. Yeah, I know he's only 34 or 35, but you know what I'm talking about. So, Chris Paul goes to Oklahoma City, and he comes 1 minute of beating his old team, which just simply amazed me. Mm-hmm. But when you look at what they got, there's some pieces there. So, I don't know what they do. I don't know what I'm going to be actually interested to see this winter. But what they do, it's funny, we used to say summer, right? But now, this winter, what they're going to do.
Right.
Do they trade Chris Paul? Do they trade him to the Knicks for junk and the number 8 pick? Or is there another buyer out there? I mean, after the season he had, there's going to be a lot of people.
There's got to be some buyers
that would take him there.
Absolutely.
So, those are things that you look at. Another thing, he does this. He does this with Paul George. Does he just pull a trade that you never saw coming? And here's the thing: we talk about this all the time with the Greek Freak. If they lose tomorrow and they're out of the playoffs in the second round, maybe he does want to be traded. If he says those magic words, "I want to be traded," does Oklahoma City have enough firepower to make a trade? Do they give Gillis Alexander, Dennis Schroeder, Steven Adams, and a bunch of picks? Is that the best trade that Milwaukee's going to get? Could be. We don't know. So these are things that I'm really interested to see. I'm excited to see, because I think it's a win-win either way. I think if they stay the course and they made some trades and they get some draft picks in the next couple of years, they're going to be fine. But if he wants to go young and build a dynasty, he's the guy to do it. I just love the draft picks he made, even though I know you said he hasn't made any great draft picks in the last couple of years, but I'll tell you, he's done well overall.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look back at their draft picks, every time they've been really high in the draft, being like what top 10 pick, they've hit. Sam Presti doesn't miss when he's high in the draft. I think once you go towards like after the top 10, hitting's a lot harder. I mean, you're gonna, and even if you do hit, you're not hitting an all-star level player. You're usually getting a solid role player, bench player, that kind of stuff. And second round is just a shot in the dark on most occasions.
And so is it in the late 20s. The Lakers did a very good job of getting guys that are still in the league in the late round, in the end of the first round. But if you look at the Lakers, Alonzo Ball, right now you can say he's a miss. Julius Randle. I mean, he's in the league. He's not a superstar by any stretch. Brandon Ingram would be the exception. Brandon Ingram is kind of who we thought he was going to be in a couple of years. He was going to be really good, and he's most improved. So they hit it there. But, yeah, to hit to 3 MVPs and potential Hall of Famers, I just think that's unprecedented. I don't know if anybody's ever done that.
No one's ever done that. And it was crazy enough that they were back-to-back drafts. So getting back to, Oklahoma City has so many different ways that they could definitely go. They can completely blow it up, which, you know what, in the situation that they're in, I wouldn't really think that they should blow it up completely. But you can go in two different ways, in my opinion. I would either go, let's keep on jumping onto what we have. We have a great leader in Chris Paul. We have tons of draft picks. Let's push forward and try to, get closer to a championship. Or let's try to stay competitive, trade Chris Paul while his stock is high right now. And that might be the smarter technical thing to do, is just try to get as much as you can from now, because like we were just talking about, not that long ago, everyone thought he was a throwaway, like he's going to be released and this, picked up on the market. So the fact that he isn't, I mean, that's a big deal. But if you were doing the thing like you were saying with Giannis, trying to pick up Giannis, I know we've had this discussion before, but if you're the Bucks and you are trading Giannis, I wouldn't imagine you're saying, okay, Chris Middleton, you are now our franchise player moving forward. So you're looking at a guy who makes 30 plus million a year, and you probably don't want that contract, to be honest with you. So that would probably be the next move that you do. So I mean, if Oklahoma City goes, I'll give you Steven Adams, basically the same thing you said, but for Steven Adams, Schrodinger, and Gilgeous Alexander, and maybe 3 or 4 first-round picks. That's given that Giannis says he wants to sign, because that's a lot to give up if that's not the case. But I don't think Giannis is a guy that says I want to live in I want to be in the big market. I don't think he really cares about that. He's more caring about winning. So if you can get him over for that, get Giannis. You have Chris Paul. You still have a pretty decent team around him. I'd probably try to re-sign Gallinari, because you need to have spacing, and Gallinari would be a perfect player around that. You might be in a pretty good position at that point, still having a couple draft picks and kind of seeing what you can do. But I mean, you get Giannis and Chris Paul together. That's a tandem. That'd be really scary out in the West. Though it does weaken the East, and the East seems to just get weaker and weaker as time goes on. It's more competitive now because all the teams are nearly in the same level, or a lot closer to the same level now than they were before. Because before it was just basically LeBron James and everyone else get out of the way. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely an opportunity. Just looking at what Presti's done, and when they made that trade, I told you, man, that was the right trade to do. Was getting all that they did for Paul George, and then how they were able to get out of Westbrook's contract, because I didn't really like Westbrook's contract. And I believe they were very similar contracts. I think Chris Paul has 1 less year. So I was like, that's technically better because you have 1 less year. But at that point, I was thinking they were just going to let go of Chris Paul. Because I know they were trying to trade him to Miami, and it was a whole thing.
From a technical standpoint, though, here's the thing: is Russell Westbrook, when he's Chris Paul's age, or when he gets the mid-30s, he's not going to be very effective. You've seen it now. He's a slasher. He kind of throws his body around like Kobe used to do. Not that he's Kobe, but he throws his body around. And Chris Paul doesn't do that. Chris Paul gets into space. He causes havoc. Chris Paul is one of the smartest basketball players in the NBA, if not the smartest player in the NBA, behind LeBron. He just knows how to play basketball. Yeah. And he plays below the rim. So he doesn't rely on athleticism. He doesn't rely on quickness, even though he's got it. He's not the most athletic point guard in the league. So he's going to age well in the NBA, where I don't think Russell Westbrook will. I think Russell Westbrook his number is going to go down considerably every year. He's going to be like a car that's got a lot of miles on it. He's just going to break down one day. Where I think Chris Paul is going to be one of those cars that goes for 200,000 miles. It's going to drive smooth all the way to the end. Yeah, let's say for a miracle they make a run at Giannis and they trade him there. They got a great culture, and there's not that many great cultures in the NBA. We talked about Gilbert, we talked about Dolan, but in Oklahoma City, I don't know who the owner is, but I know that Sam Presti has a great culture. Billy Donovan is a good coach, one of the few coaches that made it from college to the pros, and just did a great job this year. Got voted for Coach of the Year this year. So let's say Giannis goes there. Every time I watch a Thunder game, it is an amazing. It's like a whiteout. You get all these white towels, and it's a great place to play. So I can see Giannis being happy there. And if it's Chris Paul and Chris Middleton, that's the 3 good guys. The West actually, to me, it's going to change. LeBron's getting a year older, and Kawhi's getting a year older. We don't know what's going to happen in Golden State. We don't know what direction they're going to go. They're going to keep Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, but what are they going to do with the number 2 pick? Are they going to go for a veteran? Who are they going to get? You got young guns like Phoenix that are coming around. So, I think the West can be had. Here's the funny part. When I look at Denver Nuggets, I look at the East. that you got a bunch of really good players, but no superstar.
Yeah.
Even though Jamal Murray's getting there, right? He's slowly but surely he's getting to that upper, like, all-star level. But, you look at Miami, you look at Toronto, you look at Boston, they're very similar creatures. They got a bunch of really good players, but not really a superstar. Even though people think Tatum is, I don't think he's there yet either. And then Jimmy Butler's playing like one right now, but I'm not sure if Jimmy Butler long-term is that kind of player. But it's just amazing. I mean, when I think of the East, I think of the Denver Nuggets because it's very similar. Just a lot of good players, interchangeable parts, well coached, and play defense.
Yeah. So here's the idea. One way or the other, what do you do? Are you trading away Chris Paul, or are you trying to, with all the draft picks you do you try to push forward? Which way do you go? And let's say Giannis is not an option.
Okay. I trade Chris Paul.
You trade Chris Paul.
Like you talked, because like you talked about earlier, the smart thing is to sell him high. I mean, no one thought he was going to have this kind of year. And next year he could be a complete burnout. He may play like he's 36. So I say you trade him. If there's an offer out there that blows your socks off, you trade him. And you get as much as you can. And then, Steven Adams is on a one-year deal. He's got 1 year left. Schroeder's got 1 year. Maybe you trade them. Maybe you trade them to Detroit and get some pieces. And then you rebuild through the draft. And again, like I said, I think that Sam Presti's really good at it. You give him that many draft picks. I think that's the way I would go. If I was ownership, I would talk that way and go that way. Because the only guy that I see that's a young, up-and-coming player is Alexander. He's still young enough that if you bring in a couple of rookies, he could mentor them. And 4 or 5 years, they could be good. You're thinking LBJ is going to be gone by then. The Warriors are not going to be as good then because Curry will be in his upper 30s.
Right.
And then, the Clippers will be done because Kawhi will be in his upper 30s. So if you start rebuilding now, in 5 years, you can have something.
Yeah,
so that's
you change your timeline and you really kind of focus to that. That's absolutely a way.
They're small market. That's how you have to do a small market.
Yeah. Here's a trade for you. Just looking at it, trade Steven Adams and Gilgeous-Alexander and maybe 3 first-round picks for Devin Booker.
It's a thought. I don't know if that's a lot. That's a lot for Devin Booker.
You think that's a lot for Devin Booker?
Really good basketball player, though. He's a really good basketball. And then you keep Chris Paul, right?
Yeah, you keep Chris Paul. You keep the other guy.
That's a good 1-2 punch. I mean, that's something you got to consider. The only thing is he's going to bring the jinx with him, and isn't he dating one of the Jenner daughters now?
Yeah, one of them.
I don't know if she wants to move to Oklahoma City. At least Phoenix, they could be in
probably
LA
close to LA.
45 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because you got to figure one way or the other. I think you are right. I think that's a good point. Actually, is you change your timeline because in 5 years, if you can, create the culture, you already have the coach. Coach is fine, so you don't have to, change that. But if you can change it up a little bit and hit on some of these draft picks, and you should still have a lot of draft picks left after everything, you could make some really strong push. And who knows who's a free agent in the future that if you could do the same thing that we were talking about with like New York. Who knows who is a free agent? Maybe Tatum. I mean, one of these great players, maybe Zion becomes a free agent. And, I doubt he'd go to Oklahoma City if he's leaving New Orleans. But who knows? Who knows what happens? Because it's so far in the future. 4 or 5 years from now, when it comes to NBA basketball, what happens? So
here's a name, and I don't even know if he's from Oklahoma, but I know he went to Oklahoma. Trae Young, maybe in 5 years, but
don't know.
Wants out.
Absolutely,
and they trade for Trae Young.
Yep.
I'm just saying,
could happen.
The potential could be there. I mean, if you have draft picks, you're always at the poker game, right?
Right.
They'll always let you in.
Yep.
So.
All right, well, we'll end it there, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good one. Out.